to The Hypnotist, the show that gives you inside access to cutting-edge hypnosis with real clients facing genuine issues. Brought to you by the hypnotherapist demanded by celebrities, CEOs, and even royalty, Adam Cox. These recordings took place live from Adam's clinic in London's world-famous Harley Street. So, get yourself comfortable and enjoy today's episode of The Hypnotist.
Hi, it's Adam here, and you're about to listen to a hypnosis session that covers two key themes. One is childhood brainwashing, and the second is thunderstorms. And I was working with a client that could remember as a child actually playing football or soccer, as you might say in the United States, out in thunderstorms and rain and being completely unfazed by it. But then when they were about 9 or 10 years old, they started hearing things from their parents and seeing the facial expressions of grandparents. And they would see that there was a lot of fear and anxiety around thunderstorms. They lived in quite a remote agricultural part of the world, quite exposed, and therefore thunderstorms were kind of a big deal out there. But alongside that, they had a parent that would tell them that thunderstorms are God's wrath and vengeance, and they would hear stories about the end of days and apocalypses that was linked to violent storms. So at a very young, impressionable age, they were connecting punishment and curses with thunderstorms, and that all got joined up. Now, as an adult, they knew it wasn't true, but they still felt it. They still felt a visceral anxiety reaction at the very thought of thunderstorms and thunder and lightning and those things. So there's an element of timeline of going back to that younger version of themselves and saying, look, these thunderstorms, they're just nature. They're just fascinating. They're quite cool things, and seeing how that ripples through time, and also preempting what they knew their mother would tell them and priming them that it wasn't true and wasn't useful for them. So if you feel like you were kind of brainwashed in your childhood, or you've got what feels as an adult like an irrational fear, but it came from somewhere real, you might get some value from this session. And if you like the idea of working with me directly for something bespoke for you, there is a 60-second suitability test that you can take by clicking in the description. It doesn't take long to do, and you get to find some resources very quick. And I also have created a webinar where I go through the whole process of what it means to work with me, and that's completely free. So check those resources out. For now, find a quiet, comfortable place where you won't be distracted or disturbed. Relax and enjoy the session. Take a deep breath in. As you breathe in longer and deeper than you normally would. And as you exhale, just allow your eyelids to close. And as your eyelids close, give permission to release any feelings of tension and stress and worry, and maybe even anger and frustration as what happened and shouldn't have. Breathing in a feeling of peace, acceptance, and relaxation, and releasing all of those emotions from the past gradually, incrementally. I want you to get a sense that children believe quickly and easily. And sometimes children are told things about fairies and monsters that aren't true. But because children believe so quickly and easily, sometimes a child could believe the monster they've been told about is real. And some parents might describe a monster or an evil person that will do harm to the child unless they do what the parents want. Tidy their room, be good. But what if the monster is something else? Nature, perhaps. That parent could point to the sky and say, look, this is real. This is because of you. And because the lightning or the thunderstorm is real, a child that doesn't know better may believe all of the other things that aren't real because they can see something that is. As you breathe in that feeling of relaxation and exhale any tension, any stress, any worries, I want you to think of the past. And I want you to imagine one of those old photos. And the photo doesn't need to exist, but you can imagine it. You as a child playing football in a rainstorm. And as you stare into the photo, imagine the photo turns into a movie. And you can see that happy, smiling, playful child playing football in the rain. And maybe you can see that there was lightning and thunder. And yet the child kept playing football. Because continuing to play was more important than staying dry. And as you look at that memory, you have irrefutable evidence that you already know how to be calm and relaxed, even if there is a thunderstorm. But something changed. That child was told things that weren't true and started to believe things that weren't real and felt real emotions for something that wasn't real. So imagine stepping into that moving picture, like you're from the future going back into the past. And just imagine watching that football game in the thunderstorm, cheering yourself on, encouraging. They make a good pass, a good shot. Tell them, well done. Give that child approval, encouragement, support, acknowledgement. And at the end of that game, I want you to imagine congratulating them, complimenting them, and then tell them a secret. Tell them that you are them from the future. And of course, that young version of you doesn't believe you. But here's how you change their mind. Tell that younger version of you, maybe just 6 or 7 years old, a secret that only you could have known. Tell them and convince them that you are them from the future. And when that younger version of you accepts that you are them, but perhaps maybe 30 or 40 years in the future, let me know by nodding your head. And if you need to convince them with any more secrets, tell them about a memory that only they would know. But when they believe that you are them from the future, let me know by nodding your head. That's it. Breathe in and breathe out. And maybe right now they don't believe, but they don't need to. They just need to know that you care. You care deeply about the future of this child. And I want you to tell this child that in the future, they will be told by people they should be able to trust things that are not true. I want you to ask the child that's just come out of playing football in the rainstorm, what is a thunderstorm? Maybe they say it's just really intense rain. Or maybe they say it's just something in nature. And tell them they're correct. That's all it is. That when the weather is hot and humid, and there's those ions, the static electricity in the air, sometimes the power of all of that energy finds its way down in lightning. That it is something incredible, powerful, fascinating, like magic but real. And I want you to tell this child what they will be told in the future. They will be told that there are curses and punishments, God's revenge or anger. But tell them that that isn't true. Tell them that that is words being said to try and control and create fear. And I want you to imagine telling this child they are capable, they are intelligent, they can learn fast. But tell this child they should not believe everything they are told. Hug this child. Tell this child that they are loved, they are important. And tell this child you will protect them. And then say goodbye and go forwards in time a year or two. Perhaps just a few days before the brainwashing started. And when you see that child again, just a year or two older, notice how happy they are to see you. Because they know that you care. That child knows you want the best for that child. No criticism, no shaming, no threats, and no gaslighting. You want the best for that child. And tell them that in the next few days, they will be told things that aren't true. They will be told lies about thunderstorm and lightning. And when they hear it, they don't have to believe the lies. That thunderstorms are just nature. Thunderstorms just happen, often in summer, after a period of lots of heat and humidity. Nothing to do with curses or judgment. Nothing to do with punishment or pain. Just nature. And if that younger version of you accepts that to be true, I want you to feel that you have planted a seed of a new tree in the exact place where someone else wanted to plant a different tree. You are planting a tree of resilience and confidence, not fear and shame. And then just imagine observing a few days, that first time where someone close to you tried to make you convinced that you are responsible for thunderstorms, that you are causing destruction or pain. But just see that child, hearing the words but not believing the words. They don't believe that it's true. And then see, as time goes on, even more effort is made to trick the child to believe something that isn't true, to use coercion, and people all ganging up on the child, but that child is strong. That child does not believe these lies. And because they reject the lies, they also reject the connotations of the lies. I want you to imagine that small child believes something secretly about thunderstorms, that they are fascinating. Thunderstorms are just wonders of nature, powerful, incredible things, but natural. And actually, I want you to see the next thunderstorm. And I want you to see a child that, rather than feeling scared or hiding away or avoiding, I want you to see a child that stares into the sky whenever there's a thunderstorm, hoping to catch the forked lightning, counting the seconds between lightning and thunder. I want you to see a child where thunderstorms are magnificent, wonderful. And see in the following days, maybe relatives are saying how scary it was, how terrifying it was. But you know yourself, and I want you to see the facial expression of that child hearing these conversations with a secret smile, because they don't believe that. They believe that thunderstorms are marvelous, exciting, fun. There's something powerful about electricity coming from the clouds to the ground. And that child is hearing all of these stories of destruction, but they think thunderstorms are amazing. And I want you to imagine stepping into the body of that child, hearing the words from a parent or a grandparent. But even at that age of 9 or 10 or 11, you've already made up your own mind as to what thunderstorms really are. Incredible gifts in nature. They're amazing. And just imagine the very next thunderstorm is happening late at night. And while everyone's asleep, you find a way to look into the sky, hoping to see the lightning, wanting to hear that rumble of thunder. It feels the truest sense of the word awe. The power to amaze and be amazed by nature. And then imagine the following day hearing these stories of, oh, how scary it was, how terrifying it was. But feel how you would feel. You don't have to say it. You just know it, that it isn't true for you. What's true for you is that thunderstorms are natural. And if they cause damage, the damage can be repaired. If crops get affected, that's what happens. I want you to get a sense that even at that young age, thunderstorms are cool, incredible, amazing, not to be feared, but to be respected. There is a fine line between fearless and reckless. You can respect the power of a thunderstorm and still not want to go out in the middle of a thunderstorm holding a big metal pole. Why would you? Someone doesn't have to be afraid of a dog to not want to go near a dog that is snarling and aggressive. That's not being afraid, that's being responsible, intelligent. I want you to imagine jumping forward 5 years. There you are as a teenager. And imagine you're still hearing all of this nonsense about thunderstorms are scary, and you're told that you're to blame. It's you. And just imagine every time you hear something like that, you reject it. They can't make you believe that it's true. And the harder they try, the more you reject the very premise of the idea. In fact, it feels laughable, humorous. How could a child be responsible for a thunderstorm? And the more it's said, the more ridiculous it sounds. And the more ridiculous it sounds, the more something within you finds thunderstorms fascinating. These people that are trying to control and scare you, you quite like it that thunderstorms bother them so much, but they don't bother you. Imagine being a young adult and seeing a really intense thunderstorm and just wanting to watch it. Imagine watching a weather report, hoping to see thunderstorms there in the next few days. You like driving in intense rain. It feels somehow peaceful. If there's any parts of the world that have more thunderstorms, that's a reason to go, not to avoid. I want you to get a sense that this is more than just thunderstorms. It was you learning to think for yourself, to spot hypocrisy early, to see when people's words don't match their actions, and then realize that anything they say probably has an agenda. Arbitrary rules, religion used to control and coerce, you reject it. You can take the very best bits of any religion, the bits that work for you, make your life fuller, richer, more full of kindness and love and respect. And the bits that are used to control or shame, you reject them. You can think for yourself. And I want you to imagine this ripples through time. And imagine it was more than just you not being afraid of thunderstorms. Thunderstorms are now evidence that you get to think and feel for yourself. Just because someone tells you something is true doesn't mean it is. You don't believe everything you read in the news. You don't believe what politicians tell you all of the time. And not everything that comes from a parent or a relative is either true or beneficial for you. And I want want you to feel a sense of liberation. I want you to imagine what it would now feel to be in your present, having had that whole past of you reject the very idea. And I want you to imagine you are waiting and wanting the next thunderstorm, knowing that any anxiety is just echoes of the past and nothing real. Because when you do the very thing that has been controlling you, you are calling the bluff. You are refusing to continue believing something untrue. You are just one or two thunderstorms away from freeing yourself from the lies of your childhood, the shame that was never yours, the pressure that was never yours. And I want you to imagine observing that future version of you, looking forward to the next thunderstorm. The lightning represents power, and that power exists within you. The thunder represents your voice, being able to say what you never said. Even the energy in the air tells you how powerful you truly are. Before we leave this experience, I want you to imagine a baby circus elephant. And the baby elephant is tied with a rope to a wooden post. And the baby elephant is small. And when it tries to get away, no matter how hard it tried, it couldn't. And at some point that baby elephant starts to believe that it is impossible to ever escape the rope and the post. But as years go by, the once small elephant is now huge. But the elephant has stopped trying. And as you observe that adult elephant with a tiny rope on that wooden post, you know the elephant can walk away whenever it chooses, but has stopped trying. Because the elephant believes something that was true once, it's now stopped them finding freedom when all they have to do is take one step away. And what's true for the elephant is true for you. There was a time that you were powerless, a small child with the power of parents and grandparents. You started to believe something that wasn't true because you had very little other choice. But you are not that child. And what was true once is no longer true. And the very premise of the fear and the shame and the judgment was never true. And the truth will set you free. As you breathe in and breathe out, I want you to notice an apple tree, a big apple tree. But just imagine that somewhere back in time, that apple tree was pulled out by the roots and a pear tree was planted instead. An apple tree can only produce apples, and a pear tree can only produce pears. And because you've gone back in time to the very point where this false fear was planted, and planted something else, a tree of fascination, rather than a tree of fear. You have now enabled yourself to find something that once was fearful, fascinating. And the more you research and think of it, the more fascinating it becomes. It's time to leave this thought and return back to the present. Take a deep breath in through your nose and out through your nose. Wiggle your fingers and wiggle your toes as I now count from 1 to 10 to awaken you. Starting to count 1, 2, 3, waking up. 4, 5, 6, more alert. 7, 8, that's it. Fully wide awake, 9, 10, fully in the present. Thank you so much for joining me on today's episode of The Hypnotist. If you've enjoyed this episode or got some value from it, please give it a 5-star rating and review. And maybe you know someone that would also benefit from this particular episode, in which case share the episode with them so they can also get the benefit too. And if you would like to listen to this episode where it's just the hypnosis, so no intro, no outro, no explanation, just the hypnosis and completely ad-free, there will be a link in the description where you can subscribe at a very low cost and only get access to the hypnosis. So if that's of interest, please check that out. Thank you again for being a regular listener of The Hypnotist, and I'll see you again soon for more.